Always a pleasure being back to take you on a trip around the world of esports, gaming, and the games. And like I usually love to say, it is your weekend starter, especially when you're thinking of something fun and exciting beyond the traditional stuff or traditional sports. Welcome to the Afrogamer show. Interestingly, the final episode for this season and for this year. I'm excited and also not too excited because I'm thinking, what then do we serve our people? But trust us, the website would always be there, and I'm sure you can always catch a rerun of some of the shows we've done all season on Afro Sports TV. Welcome to the show. This show was, came to bear a few months back, a partnership between the Afrogamer media platform and Afro Sports, and it's been exciting bringing to you episode upon episode, which we made back to back if I were to sound like Olamide, the Nigerian music artist. My name is Shayo, and it's always a pleasure doing this with you out there watching and listening to us. Today's show is a unique one. We won't be doing the regulars, but it promises to be an exciting one. And one thing I promise you is, unlike before when I allow Ife to just, run along for the weekend, I will hold him down because this is the festive season and he must be our Santa on the show today. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, Ife would be joining me and we will be diving straight into the news making the rounds on the show today. It's the Afrogamer show and it's coming to you right here on Afro Sports TV. Alright, welcome back. It's still the Afrogamer show. My name is Shayo, your regular host. And yes, it's the final episode. I can't say that enough, right? So that you guys will remember. It's the final episode for this season, the very first season. And it's been an exciting one, delving into different things, bringing you different exciting things from across the world of esports. But we usually love to narrow down to things happening within the African continent because we're very, very concerned about the growth and development of esports on the continent. All right, joining me, as always, is the man about the esports town and the managing editor of the Afrogamer platform, media platform, be it the websites, be it the podcast, whatever you can think about. Ife, how are you doing? Compliment of the season. I have still not seen my Christmas goodies. Kilo Shele.
Hello Shayo, compliments of the season to you and all our esteemed viewers and followers. Once again, Santa brings the gifts the night before Christmas, so you still have till next Wednesday.
Well, I was watching a movie and I actually slept off, so I still need to complete that movie, the red one. So don't let our own Santa be kidnapped, please. Make sure that's
okay, I will try as possible.
Okay, fair. Good to be here, and I'm sure mixed feelings for you. Final episode for the season. 2024 has been such an exciting year. You and I have had some interesting, journey virtually, physically, and it's been fun, right? I believe.
Yes, it's been super fun. It's been a long time coming. Once again, what started as a conversation, we're 19 episodes in, so we can only look ahead and look forward, and I'm just grateful for how far we've come.
Definitely grateful. All right, let's delve into the news, and that man Shaoling comes in first with his Tekken tour. Let's talk about how he performed there. We know it's a learning curve. We know there's still a lot to do as regards, player proficiency on the continent, but good learning for him, and he definitely takes something into the next phase of his playing career.
Yes, Shayo. One thing I love about this lad is that he makes himself accountable. So even before Tekken, itself, the official website had brought out the, everybody's performance. He had already posted like, hey, I made top 16, but I fell short, and I'll be better next year. So, the group stages, he came second, automatically qualified, but when it came to the round of 16, it was a close loss. So most times you play for the best of 5. when you get to those stages, and it was head to head, like two games won, and just the final game, you know, like you always say, some things are mental. I think, you know, he had a deficiency at that last game, and that's where he just fell short, because he would have just ended up making the top 8. But once again, I'm happy he did. I'm seeing his progress since he has come under our radar, and the fact that he's just giving us updates about how he's doing. So even if he's playing an African tournament, he would give you account of what's going on. Exactly. So I'm you know, hoping that he, you know, that I know the Esports World Cup has not yet announced Tekken yet, but I'm hoping that when they do, you know, I know obviously for making top 16, he will get a shot.
Definitely, and that will be exciting to see. And talking about him being accountable, you know, most people say, oh, why are you posting on social media and stuff like that? But the truth is, the kind of industry we're in, you need to showcase some of these things. Let's not forget one of the metrics. And for those who do not know, the Esports World Cup Foundation is giving some cool cash and a bit of other things. But the cash is good enough to 20 teams globally. If I'm right, is it 20, 40, if I can remind me, globally?
It's 20.
40 teams actually. Is it 20 or 40? Okay, it's 20. 20 teams globally. And one of the metrics in selecting those teams is actually for them to be very, very vibrant on social media, building the fan base and all that. So what Shaoling is doing is actually commendable, because he will grow his numbers and he becomes a sensation, and he can then begin to influence for brands and all the other things that come with it. So very commendable from him, and we say kudos. Good to see him in the top 16, and we definitely hope for more and more things for him going into the new year. Let's leave that and talk about eFiba Season 3. That's the FIBA Esports Championships. Season 3 has come and gone. Algeria represented the continent. Not too good a performance, but then we've said this before, it was good to see a new team or a new country in the mix. I haven't seen Morocco in the past, now Algeria. Let's get a full understanding of how it all went down for that one.
Oh yes, so Algeria won the qualifiers, the online qualifiers, and they represented the country, the continent. We were already worried with the group of death they were in. They had USA in that group. They had Portugal in that group, and they had Saudi Arabia. So they actually lost all three.
No surprises.
No surprise, they lost all three. But I think, to me, for first timers, I'm quite impressed, because after the tournament, when eFiba released the top 8 teams ranking, they ended up being 6th, and they were not 8th, because I was expecting, you know, after the whole tournament, depending on how they perform, which means that there's room for improvement. And, you know, for being first timers and newcomers, they've given a sort of account of themselves, like, hey, Africa is actually here to stay, and I'm happy for that. You know, he ended last weekend, at no surprise, USA taking it again, which is no surprise to us. Turkey coming second, and then you had Portugal coming third. So as to, you know, how that would transcend next year, I'm actually hoping that more teams come out. So I know 17 teams this year for Africa participated, or at least were registered. Out of 54 countries, we should be able to meet 2024. Especially because I know I will sound like a broken record. There's an Olympic esports games coming, so that we should speak into the consciousness of people that, okay, now there's eFiba and there are other titles. So I'm just hoping that more basketball federations wake up across the region.
Definitely. One thing we must say is the fact that 2 teams from Algeria's group finished in the top 3, and that is USA and Portugal. So that's to tell you that we were right when we said that group was the group of death, considering the fact that 2 teams from them made the podium. But then kudos to the Algerians, good showing from them, lost everything, but of course valuable experience to take into the next level. Another thing I would like to say, and I know Ife has talked about the fact that he wants more teams to be part of this. Well, on my own side, I'm thinking, Ife, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, that what I'll prefer to see is our own African version of this. So FIBA Africa, I think it's time to sit down and create an African esports championships, and that would help us build muscle before we then go out there to face these other guys. It's not only when we need to play the main FIBA championship that we start rallying the troops. Why don't we start building something now, and then we're ready for the international scene? What do you think?
So I totally agree with you. I think it's a two sides to it. First of all, eFiba should not just make it online. So, you know, you can break it down to regions, north, south, west, but then let there be a physical event for Africa. Then the winners of that can go to eFiba or can even go to the Olympic Esports Games. They should not just do the bare minimum. So that's that on their own side, and expect eFiba to step it up. But on the flip side, for countries who have been missing in action, that probably they've been there before or they know about eFiba, this is the time to start doing your research. What does it require for my team to participate? Start reaching out to gamers. Do we have, you know, people who play NBA? Most times, which is sad, is that most of these gamers are from diaspora. So from Nigeria, you see Nigerian diasporas, Kenyans. That is an opportunity to bring those diasporans into the fold, because let's be honest, they will never make Team USA. So now that allows you to widen your nets and say, okay, you know what, as much as they are diasporans but they are from our country, let's bring them into it. So you're killing many birds with one stone. You're increasing your database. You're gathering your database, you're improving grassroots. So those are accolades that you can key into. And like you said, do not wait until eFiba announces that there's season 4, or it's time for you to submit your interest before you start preparing. You should be preparing now. This is the time to say, okay, teams like Portugal, Turkey, you know, they did well. As much as, you know, playing USA, you know it is going to be daylight robbery, they will kill you. Play all those teams. Play Saudi Arabia. Start to build that team and all. But once again, like they say, you can force a horse to the river, you cannot force it to drink. So hopefully they'll be able to get things right in 2025.
Alright, Ife, thanks a lot for that. Hopefully 2025 will be better, just as you have said. Let's leave that now and quickly together talk about the Rocket League, and this is under the umbrella of FIFA, right? The Rocket League and the eFootball, that's the mobile and console version. They were winners, but of course we're concerned about the continent's representation at these different tournaments. Let's talk about the winners first. For Rocket League, it was the Saudis who won the FIFAe World Cup. For eFootball mobile, we saw Malaysia, they were current champions, and eFootball console, it was Indonesia. Congrats to the winners. Saudi, definitely, that was a huge one for them in Rocket League. And just as you and I have talked about in the background, that may just, give that consideration for Rocket League at the Olympic Esports Games next year. But let's talk about the African representation at these three titles, and how they performed.
Yes. So it's funny that you said the Rocket League, because on console and mobile, Saudi did not qualify from the group stage, which was surprising. But let's move on. So Morocco did represent Africa, and I think they gave a good account for themselves. Remember, I did say I was not impressed with what they did in the AESF World Esports Championship, but this time they did give an account of themselves. For Rocket League, they did fall short of the finals, so they ended up being third. They did lose to France, and France went on to the finals to lose to Saudi Arabia. So that was quite interesting. I was happy for Morocco. And then for the mobile also, they did win. They did qualify all the way to the finals, but fell short against Indonesia, sadly. So that was quite impressive in my opinion. But for the console part, they qualify from the group stage, and then they fall short to the winner, which was Indonesia. So Malaysia won Malaysia won mobile, and then Morocco fell short. Morocco fell short to the Indonesians, who ended up winning. So all in all, that is second place in one, third place in another, which is bronze, silver, and the other one, room for improvement. So I think they really did give a good account for themselves. Once again, I'm hoping this sets a tone across Africa that, hey, this is what the Moroccans are doing. It is not rocket science. If you do what is right, you will get great results. So I'm happy for them. Congratulations to them, and I'm hoping to see them do more stuff in 2025.
Definitely, and I don't know if it's just you, but the Moroccans definitely in the world of esports and generally in sports, because we saw what they did with the CAF Awards, and now FIFA having an office there, the FIFA office there, the first on the continent. The Moroccans are giving the Saudi vibe in terms of sports dominance on the continent, and it's really commendable to see them grow. But let's give honorable mention. But before we talk about that, the honorable mention to South Africa, let's talk about the fact that the Moroccans are going to share $25,000 with the fourth place team, and that's for the Rocket League, for coming third in Rocket League, and that is good money if we were to weigh in on that. And South Africa, who came in 15th position, would share $5,500 with the team that came in fourth position. So esports generally can add to the pot. So imagine if NFF, the Nigerian Football Federation, was involved in this, and they would have had some, quid in the purse from this experience. So this is something we expect that the federations will start looking at, because there are opportunities that are being built the world over. Let's leave the African continent now, and talk about Asia Esports Federation. Definitely looking into the future, signing a partnership with AEG, and we're expecting some good stuff from there.
Yes, so AEG is a sports content company. So just like how you have ESPN, you have our own Super Sports, you have Fox Sports. AEG is one that they have footprints in Asia and in the US. So the partnership is to be able to push any IP that the AESF, that's the African, not the African, now the Asian Electronic Sports Asian Federation pushes out. So here's my concern, Shayo, is that as much as they're a federation, they've been poor in terms of publicity. You hardly hear that they are doing something until at the end. When you see maybe people who attended the event post about it. And just like 2 weeks ago, we didn't know about that Asian esports games until India started posting about it, and I'm like, is there no team for publicity? You don't have people on social media that are supposed to be pushing. So once again, they are doing like traditional sports, which is sad. That is only when there's a huge announcement like this MOU with AEG that people will see that you've posted, as opposed to posting every single thing that needs to be posted. So I'm hoping they get that right come 2025, especially with this deal with the AEG. So they need to get it right, and I hope they get it right.
All right, that definitely is the expectation for that one. And let's talk about the Esports World Cup. That would be a conversation till it happens, and that's the second edition for 2025. More titles added, and as at the last count, we see 15 titles. The most recent one being chess, with the chess.com platform coming to bear. $1.5 million is up for grabs, and it definitely means there are more opportunities. And like I discussed with you off air, this is one that Africans can give a shot.
Yes, I know. As at the last time, only 5 were announced, which we brought in our last episode. But now, Saudi has increased it from 20 to 25. So now they've released 15 announcements for the titles. Honor of Kings, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Call of Duty Warzone, Free Fire, Street Fighter 6, Dota 2, Rainbow Six, Counter-Strike 2, PUBG Mobile, Apex Legends, Overwatch 2, Mobile Legend Bang Bang Open category, Mobile Legend Bang Bang Women category, which I'm happy about, Rocket League, which they did perform fantastic in, and then and then chess.com. And like you did mention, chess.com allows inclusion. I know there've been that clamor of, oh, there's no inclusion, Africa is not participating, and so on and so forth. But now with the chess.com, they've made it open that all you need to do is chess.com itself has a tournament IP that you can participate. All you need to do is be ranked high, do well, and then you will be in the Esports World Cup. But the problem and the worry, Shayo, is, do African stakeholders or African gamers know this? Is the question.
Is this, that's the question. That definitely will always be the question, because people are really not, getting to know and understand these things. But that's why we're here on the Afrogamer show right here on Afro Sports TV, to give the information out and for people to be well aware. It's easy. Just go to that website, chess.com. You would see how you can be part of it. And who knows, you give it a shot, you build your records, and you can just be on your way to Saudi Arabia for the Esports World Cup. On a final note, Ife, before we take a quick break and come back to discuss the 2024 recap, let's talk about Sony Play Station. It's 30 years being celebrated, and it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a few others in between, from PS Vita to PS whatever and all that. But we've seen 5 consoles built, and it's been from one level of technology to another.
Yes, I didn't even know they were up to 30 years. How time flies. Congratulations to Sony.
Check your age, you will know.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I was able to see a mini documentary of how Sony started. The funny thing was, Sony tried to work with Nintendo, and Nintendo just did a U-turn on them. And they just decided, you know what, since we have this idea, let's go with it. And they've been in that conversation since they came into the market.
They're the market leader. I believe they're the market leader.
Yeah, so some consoles have come and gone and are giving us 50 years, 40 years, but Sony PlayStation has been there since the PS1, Vista, the handheld, up onto PS5. They have been in that conversation of they are market leaders. So I'm really happy about that, because I think they changed the narrative for gaming. When Sega, Nintendo, immediately came, it seemed like every other person was struggling and they had to revamp. But they just changed the narrative of gaming, and then they just started leading the pack. So I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to many more years from them.
Definitely many more years to the guys at Sony PlayStation, and all the best to them. The technological advancement is something that for me has been the reason why they continue to lead the pack in terms of console creation. All right, guys, that's all on the news for now. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll do a quick recap of 2024, talk about the things that interested us, because you can also share with us via the different social media platforms, and we will be back for more. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back. The Afrogamer Show. Alright guys, welcome back. It's still the Afrogamer show, and yes, Ife is still here. I told you I'll be keeping him around till the very end of the show. That's an unusual one, but yes, I agreed to do this in the spirit of the season. Ife, 2024 recap, it was an eventful year. Definitely, if you ask so many people, even those who don't have a clue, and no pun intended, they would say the highlight is the announcement of the Olympic Esports Games. But it promises to be a fun 2025. But let's talk about 2024. What was the main highlight of the year 2024 for you?
So I have a few highlights. Permit me to say more than one. I think the first one is the all-female Tekken championships. It was catered to just them, and now it has become a template for not just the organizer themselves, but every other stakeholder to use this as a template, especially when you're talking to schools, talking to brands, talking to organizations, and that's because previously we've always said it is a male-dominated sport, but now you can use it. Yeah, you can use it to, show that it can be welcoming for female gamers. I think that was the top of my highlight for me. And then the second one is so the bringing back of consoles and celebrating landmarks, like Atari was celebrating 50 years, now Sony is celebrating 30 years. So to me, those were the highlights, because those are nostalgic for me, because it now brings us back to gaming is, for lack of better word, I know it's exaggeration, like is almost as old as mankind. I'm sorry to, because you'd be like, this was happening, and especially because even when we're doing the fun side of gaming, or we're doing retro, and you start seeing games, you see that there's some games that even came up before we were born, and you'll be like, oh wow. Yeah, so those were the highlights for me. I'm not going to say the obvious of the Olympic esports games. That is also, that's a given. But to me, the all women tournaments, and then the the celebration of the achievements from blast from the past of consoles and games was the highlight for me.
Okay, I know you didn't mention the obvious, but I definitely would bring you back, and I'll talk about two obvious ones. Definitely the Esports World Cup and the Olympic Esports Games. First, Esports World Cup. How has that shaped the landscape? And we know that it may not be touching Africa yet, but the truth is it will come here, especially with new developments and addition of some titles that allow for a lower, barrier for entry for the continent's gamers and teams as it is. But let's talk about the Esports World Cup. How has that shaped the landscape? I know you were pointing out to me the fact that now we see publishers collapsing their tournaments into it.
Yeah, so honestly, Shaya, the Esports World Cup resuscitated esports, and that's because there was already this rumor, or this passage of information saying esports winter is coming, especially when a lot of investors were pulling out from esports because it did not have a proper structure. So everything that was coming before the Esports World Cup was all vibes and inshallah, and teams were closing, organizations were closing shop. So the Esports World Cup came in to resuscitate the ecosystem, in my own opinion, and then now started bringing people back who were down and almost out into the fold. And also, what it has also done is, like I did mention in the past, esports kind of didn't have a proper structure, and now the Esports World Cup is building that spine. I won't say it's there yet, but it's building that spine for a proper structure of what esports can be, or should be, and will be now and in the future. So I'm happy about that. I'm just hoping they grow, and obviously the most important part, make it very, very inclusive, so that teams from Africa, gamers from Africa can participate, and then leave an example for those younger ones coming into the esports space.
All right, thanks a lot. Definitely, you captured it right. The truth is, esports was almost dead or dying until the advent of the Esports World Cup. And it's almost like it's the same thing happening with the Olympic Esports Games. Now we're seeing double interest from the traditional esports side and now the traditional sports side. And it seems there's a convergence that would go out of this world starting from 2025 with the Olympic Esports Games?
Yes. So, like I did mention, the Esports World Cup has brought a spine for the structure to build on. So now the adding of flesh is where the Olympic Esports Games comes into it, like adding the other bones, adding some flesh to it. It was a no-brainer that the Olympic was going to kick into it, and we've had this conversation over time and time again. Like, the lack of proper structure is what might be the death of esports. But now that the Olympic the Esports World Cup has brought that foundation, and now there's something for the Olympic Games to build off on, then now you can actually plan and say, this is how esports can be profitable. Because let's be honest, previously all we're talking about was content. Oh, as a team you need to stream, as a gamer you need to stream, partnerships, and there's more to,
and those are not the things that will make you scale.
Exactly. So there's more opportunities, in the business side of things, outside of just creating content and streaming. So now with Olympic Esports Games, more opportunities open. You can be a technical director, you can be part of a federation and be their go-to person for esports. So now there's now a proper esports career path. Before we're just giving textbooks responses. Oh, everything you do in other places you can do it. They are transferable skills, but now you can actually use proper examples, which I'm really, really happy for, and I'm hoping more Africans get those opportunities as we build up to the Olympic Esports Games.
And that was the next thing I was going to ask. That how soon do we expect ANOCA, which should be the Olympics, which is the Olympic body in Africa, how soon do we expect them to catch this? Considering the fact that we've already seen the European Olympic Committee tie up with the Global Esports Federation for the European Esports Games. Remember, in Poland, we saw it for Panam in Santiago, Chile, but we saw how the African version was scuttled from happening in Accra, Ghana, and some sham was done there. How soon do we expect ANOCA to wake up and see that this is the next wave and it must happen? It's not even negotiable.
Honestly, I don't have that answer. I know Africa is always late to the party. I know that there are a few people such as yourselves and a few other Africans who are in the IOC, trying to push that narrative and explain it to ANOCA, or trying to get in contact with them to make them see reason. Let's not forget that they are aware about the Olympic Esports Games. It is not,
yes, indeed.
It is not Spanish or Arabic to them. They know about it, but the typical African behavior, they are not going to make that move, except pushed to the wall, or if there's that financial, rainfall coming from the global office. But they need to look beyond that at this point, that esports is here to stay. Hopefully, those championing that agenda to introduce and make them aware of esports, hopefully they give that listening ear, and instead of saying we'll get back to you, let them just say, oh yeah, let's start. How do we start? I'm hoping that is what would happen in 2025.
All right, so that's our recap for 2024. I was going to put you on the spot on a couple of things, but I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide till next year. Maybe we'll do that, because it was great to really, really put you on the spot. But let's slide on that so that we can move on to do our game over for today and wrap up the show for today and also for the season. So let's take a quick break. When we get back, it will be game over, and we're definitely bringing it back home. We've talked about so many things outside the country, but there's something shaping up in Nigeria that we believe we should weigh in on, and that's our game over for today. So take a quick break. We'll be right back.
a challenge. Hiya, dawg, let me tell you something. Basic drama men, they want me nothing. They wouldn't know really if it hit you harder. 3 strikes and I bet they bothered. Maybe it's all of my crazy problems. Took a lot for me to rise and solve them. Either way, I cause a seed. So there's trouble when I take the lead. I'm going above and beyond the challenge. I'm making a splash no matter what happens. I'm going above and beyond the challenge. I'm making a splash no matter what happens. I'm making a splash. I'm killing this challenge. I give it my all, no matter what happens. I'm making a splash. I'm killing this challenge. I give it my all, no matter what happens. I'm killing this challenge. I'm killing this challenge.
Alright guys, welcome back. It's still the Afrogamer show, final lap of the show, and yes, like we usually do, we wrap up with what's known as Game Over. And what we do with Game Over is to give you something that's thought-provoking, takes you into the weekend and you're just sitting there and thinking, what is this thing that was talked about? That's exactly what we do. So as usual, like I always say, come close. Let's talk about it, but I'm not doing it alone this time. I'm doing it with eFiFae. In the course of the week, there was a meeting of stakeholders in esports with the Director General, newly appointed Director General of the National Sports Commission, Honorable Bukola Olopade, and I was in attendance, eFiFae was in attendance, and I must say that, first of all, I give kudos to him, despite the fact that he was away. It was a virtual meeting and he was not in the country. He concentrated for the close to 1 hour plus of that meeting, asking some, diligent questions, some questions that were really unearthing things and making him understand the ecosystem better. Aside that, he's been, doing a lot of digging into what is happening within the ecosystem and how they can use it to shape the economy in line with the mandate himself and the chairman, Malam Shehu Diko, have from the president of the country, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Ife, that meeting was converged, though not the direction we expected it would go, but overall, what the main takeout was about a federation. And we saw, a few lags and lapses here and there, and we thought to ourselves, there would have been a better way to approach this, to strengthen the center, if we build from the bottom up. You want to shed a light on that?
For lack of better word, that meeting, we were, given an agenda for something, and we came in to meet something else. No fault of the DG, but it looks like we are so obsessed with a federation, even without building any foundation, any framework and titles, because it was a shambolic representation from the federation when they were telling us what they have done. For lack of better words, they did not even tell us who they were. They just said we're the federation, and as a federation you need to say we are established these things. You can say this is our 10-point agenda, this is our 5-point agenda. There was nothing. So it was shambolic, people jumping in to give false narratives, false figures, and it just comes to say that they're actually not prepared and just obsessed that, okay, a lot of people have federations, so we need to have federations. And this conversation I was having yesterday was that all the great federations that we're all looking up to, Saudi, Morocco, they did not start off as federations at first. They built the framework before saying now it is time for a federation. But we just saying we want to start off with the federation. It's like you saying
before the building.
Not even before the building, before the foundation. Like, oh, I'm just going to hang a ceiling, a roof on trees, and then we'll figure out the rest. So once again, I would like to use this as an opportunity, to decision makers, go back to the drawing board. It is not a battle for titles or we have a federation. You need to give us an agenda. What is the agenda? What are we trying to achieve? And like we've always had this conversation, you and I, Shayo, you need to have pillars that would allow you to build foundations. Things like education, grassroots, and player development. Now,
Yes.
they came up with things like, oh, we're having an esports league. Let's not forget that currently everybody's recycling the same gamers, so that means there's not going to be a grassroots or player development, because whatever games or tournaments you organize is still the same people. So that's already an F there. You say education, there was no plan about secondary school, there was no plan about universities, no plans. You just put it out there and said education. So those are things I think they need to go back to it. And first of all, we don't know who the members of the federation are.
Yeah.
Because if you're a federation, then
DJ has requested that.
yeah, if you're saying you're a federation, then all stakeholders should be under that federation. I bet you that 90% of people that attended that meeting were not part of the federation, if they even knew what the federation was doing.
What's that about? Yeah.
So it was shambolic. It's like, they just tell you to do a presentation that you know nothing about, and you're just trying to wing it. That's how that meeting, in my own opinion, went. So I'm hoping, I like that the DG was open-minded. He asked questions. He made corrections to misconceptions and all. But they need to go back to the drawing board and make sure that it is not about titles and about, oh, we're traveling. How can we build a legacy?
Yes,
so, I don't want to say too much. I'll leave it at that.
All right, thanks a lot, Ife. And as you guys can see, I'm not the only one who's got thought-provoking stuff to give out. You've listened to Ife. I'll only top it up with this. First things first, we need a national esports policy. We do not have one in place, and that framework is what we can then use to identify the pillars which Ife has talked about. Second of all, the way we should set up our federation should not fall into the trap or trappings of the traditional sports federations where we have this fight every 4-year cycle. Like we're expecting something close to that, except for the work of the DG and the chairman in the federations when it comes to changing of guard in all this federation. And on the final note, I would say to the guys who believe they are in charge to seek help. Help, because there are people who are privy to some information beyond our shores. There are people who are connected beyond our shores, and they can help you get better, do better, and achieve better in whatever you're trying to do. That is our game over for today. Fair, thank you so much for being part of the show. It's been exciting doing this with you all season.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful 2025.
Definitely looking forward to a wonderful 2025. That's the show for today, guys. It's been the Afrogamer Show. Thank you so much for joining us all season long. We'll catch you again in 2025, where season 2 comes, and it definitely will be our big build-up to the Olympic Esports Games, which is what everyone is looking forward to in that year. My name is Shayo. Bye for now, guys.